chat box. We'll get started in like about a minute. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do, the Latino Alumni Association, and kind of how this panel came about. And then Corey, if you're ready, we can start recording. I think we're already recording, right? So welcome everybody. My name is Cesar Pacheco. I'm the University Relations Chair for the UCLA Latino Alumni Association. I graduated in 2018 with a degree in anthropology, and I'm a commercial real estate agent. First of all, I want to thank the Latino Alumni Association. It's a volunteer-run organization. There's 10 board members. Some of them are in attendance now. One of the panelists used to be a board member. And really the Latino Alumni Association is about bringing all the Latinx, all the Hispanic alumni together. We host events now virtually, and our 5th virtual panel since February 2020. I want to thank Colleen for helping me plan this event. She's been there every step of the way. And also Jeanette Palacios, who's the president of the Latino Alumni Association, and Soleil Delgadillo, who's the past president of the Latino Alumni Association, for always being supportive. And of course, everyone who is here, to learn about, how mentorship success. And without further ado, I'd like to read Dr. Laura Romero's introduction. Dr. Laura C. Romero is the founder and the president of her consulting firm, Brillante Strategies, where she advises people and organizations on professional development and public affairs. Brillante Strategies is based on her extensive visionary career, especially her UCLA mentoring doctoral dissertation and experience managing an innovative award-winning national mentoring program. This is why she's our moderator. We also have another upcoming event for graduating seniors, so please look out for your email, and hopefully all of you can attend. Laura C. Romero has the honor of serving as a member of the California State Summer School for the Art Board of Trustees, LA's Best Advisory Board, the Public Media Group of Southern California Community Council, the executive coach for the Loyola Marymount University Executive MBA program. That's awesome. And she also served as the vice president of the UCLA Latino Alumni Association Board of Directors. Dr. Romero, she's a triple bruin, so she's awesome, super smart. She got her BA, her MA, and her PhD from UCLA. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Laura, who's gonna take the show from here.
Thanks so much, Cesar. I'm really excited to be with everybody here today. I think we're going to be having a really exciting and great conversation, basically on career success as well as mentoring. And so before I get going, I just kind of wanted to take some time to introduce and read some of the bios of our a couple of the panelists that we have here today. First, I'd like to start off with Laura Barrero, and she received her bachelor's in communication studies in 2014, and she currently works as a corporate recruiter for Warner Media. Prior to Warner, Laura was a recruiter for EY as well as NBC Universal. She's working on an online master's degree in human resources from Pepperdine Graziadio Business School. Laura has volunteered with Ucla in the past as scholarship committee member, membership board chair, and Orgullosos mentor. In her free time, Laura likes to play film scores on the piano, hang out with her fur baby Duke and her partner Michael, who's also a Latino Bruin. So let's welcome Laura. Now I'll go ahead and like to introduce Jesse Coronado. Jesse was a member of a gang, and his future looked bleak. He joined a Catholic seminary and later the US Army. These two institutions helped Jesse turn his life around. After the Army, he entered UCLA and went on to become active on campus and earn a BA in Latin American Studies and an MBA in Management and Finance. Jesse went on to a successful career at Citibank and with the US Department of State. I'd like to now also introduce Liz Saldivar. Liz possesses a wealth of experience in both the public and private sector, developing and managing strategic government and community outreach programs. Currently, Liz serves as a Director of External Affairs for the California Department of Justice, one of the largest Attorney General's office in the country. In this capacity, Liz provides strategic counsel to the Attorney General and oversees the statewide external affairs team and the public inquiry unit. Recently, Liz was appointed to serve on the Los Angeles City Redistricting Commission. A native of Los Angeles, Liz earned her bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, Los Angeles. So you can really see we have an amazing team here tonight, a really great group of panelists, and I'm just really excited to be with everybody here today and be with our exciting panel. Just to go ahead and get started, I know that we're going to be focusing on career as well as mentoring. I just wanted to go ahead and have the mentors, or I should say, they are mentors to all of us here tonight. Have the panelists talk to us about themselves, where they grew up, maybe provide some identifiers, and maybe if you can go ahead and identify a little or elaborate a little bit more on your jobs. We can go ahead and start off with Laura.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Laura Barrero. I am a comm studies grad from UCLA in 2014. As Laura touched on, I work in the corporate recruiting space, have been doing that for about 5-6 years now for large companies. I am second gen, but my dad was actually a first gen and also a Latino Bruin. So I was really excited to follow in his footsteps and attend UCLA. My parents both emigrated to the US from South America as kids. My dad came from Bogota, Colombia, and my mom came from Guayaquil, Ecuador. So both of them were some of the first in their family to go to college. And I was definitely very excited to, as mentioned, attend UCLA. A little bit about my career path. So right now I handle full cycle recruitment for full-time jobs at Warner Media, home of our HBO Max streaming service, which hopefully you all have downloaded by now. So I handle right now mostly, as far as being the recruiter, mostly handle jobs in research, data analytics, more of corporate sort of functions. I really like working in media and entertainment. It's definitely a lot different from Ernst & Young, but I feel that having sort of different industries in terms of my background has actually helped me a lot. I was able to transition as a finance recruiter when I first started at Warner Media as an example, and I think a lot of that was due to my background working for Ernst & Young. So yeah, I really like recruiting. I'm naturally drawn to roles where I do get to mentor others, and I'm fortunate that that's a part of my day-to-day. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Why don't we go ahead and go with Jesse?
Well, a few years ago, I was invited to a reception in honor of the Dreamers Scholarship Fund at UCLA, and so when I got the invitation, I immediately RSVP'd. I really felt that. And when I was sitting there, I was saying, you know, I was a dreamer before there were dreamers, because I came to the U.S. when I was 7 years old after my mother died, so you know, I came to a predominantly English-speaking community in West LA, mostly Japanese Americans and Anglos. The Mexican Americans at that time weren't speaking Spanish because of the discrimination they had faced. And I stayed in, you know, we lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to Mar Vista, 2 years there, and it was again mostly middle-class white community. And then we bought a house in Venice, which at that time used to be a ghetto, Chicanos, Latinos, and blacks mostly, and that was a big shock. And before you knew it, you know, I was involved with gangs, you know, and I knew that that was not a good solution to my life. You know, when I was 13, we went back to Mexico, and I had forgotten how to speak Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish all over again, because, you know, if you don't speak Spanish for 7 years, you know, you forget it. You know, you don't practice it. And the language that I spoke was colloquial Spanish. It was not, you know, not the kind of Spanish I grew up, with. And so I stayed in Mexico for a year, and I relearned Spanish all over again. My brother was a priest, and he died 29 years old. And because of that, when I came back to LA, I joined the seminaries, Dominguez Seminary in Compton. And that really changed my life, because up to that time I had been a mediocre average student. But at the seminary, there was a lot of discipline. They gave us study time. There was we had activities, recreation. I played soccer, I played flag football, and that was a great experience, and it really shaped me, because when I left the seminary, I went back to Venice High School, and 4 months before graduation, I quit because there was no future for me. The college counselor was telling me that I didn't have the wherewithal to basically go to UCLA, because that was my dream school. And so I just quit. I said, well, if I can't go to UCLA, I'm not going to go anywhere. So I went to the Army. And the seminary just prepared me to be a great soldier, because I had all the discipline already. So they said, well, geez, we normally break down the soldiers, but you're already broken down. You already know how to be a good soldier. But basically, the Army was a good opportunity for me. I immediately, when I went, I spent some time in the U.S. And when I went to Europe, I started Los Hermanos Latinos. And then there were all these Latino clubs around Europe, and we called ourselves the Federation Latino Clubs. What we did was really remarkable, because we were all young people, and we basically were able to get the military to bring Latino entertainment to the bases for ourselves and our families, and also to bring Latino products, Goya products, Mexican tortillas and chiles and all that stuff. And those are the things that our parents used to bring us, those gift baskets and stuff. And I got involved with the Federation. I was secretary for 1 year, and then 1 year I was president. And but one of the big highlights that we had is we were also able to get the generals to basically not purchase grapes during the boycott. And Cesar Chavez was so happy that we did that, because the Department of Defense, and you go to the mess hall, and the thing was packed with grapes. But basically, that prepared me well. And after 8 years in the military, I left, and I entered UCLA. I left on a Friday, and Monday I was a freshman at UCLA. 26 years old, a little bit older than everybody else. And I immediately got involved with Mecha, La Gente, Partnership, Unicamp, almost every organization you can think of I was involved with. And then I was editor of La Gente for 2 years, and then I was the first minority editor of the Daily Bruin at UCLA. And I continue to be involved with the Daily Bruin and the Daily Bruin Alumni Association, and also I'm a member of the ASUCLA Communications Board. And then I went to business school in UCLA. And with me, I was kind of shocked, because when I came to UCLA, there was Mecha and there was Ola. Ola was Organization of Latin Americans. And I was shocked, because I had been around Latinos of all, backgrounds, so I was really shocked that we had two different organizations. And then I found out, well, Mexicans didn't want to be part of Mecha because they didn't feel like they were Chicanos. And with me, I didn't mind, I could be a part of anything that helped the community. So when I was president of the the Chicano Management Student Association, I changed it to Latino Management Student Association. This is back in 1982. So people were shocked. And a lot of the Chicano leaders in Los Angeles and big people were jamming me up for doing that. And now, when I see them, I say, hey, you guys, did you go to the Latino alumni function? So I think that was the right solution, because I saw the demographics were changing. The community, particularly Central Americans, were coming in droves in the 70s and the 80s. And, we really are all the same people, all the way from Los Angeles, all the way down to the tip of Argentina, so we're all the same people.
Well, thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate that background information. How about you, Liz? Can you share a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and a little bit about your career as well?
So hi, I'm Liz Saldivar, and graduated from UCLA in 1996 as a poli-sci major. I grew up in Lincoln Heights, went to Lincoln High School, first generation. My parents are both from Mexico, and I was the first to go to college. And so it was sort of an experience, right, to sort of figure things out on your own. since your parents didn't know how to guide you, but they were very supportive. And so while I was at UCLA, I actually had the opportunity to intern. I saw a posting at the poli-sci department, and I interned with then Assemblywoman Marta Escutia. And so that sort of opened the door. And ever since then, I've worked for 3 city council members, Congressman Becerra, who is now Secretary of HHS, and I've worked for Javier Becerra for 11 years, moved over to DOJ when he became the Attorney General, and now I work for AG Bonta. I do external affairs. I oversee all external affairs for the state of California. So basically, anything that's outward facing, my team and I are involved.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm just wondering if you can spend a little bit of time and share with us one of the best things, one of your favorite things about UCLA, just kind of quickly.
I think for me, it was just the campus. As a freshman in high school, I went and I just thought the campus was spectacular. I want to come here. But I think once I went there, I really enjoyed that many of my courses had a community service component, and you really got to interact your academia with volunteering in communities that were very similar to mine. And so I think those are my, why I love UCLA.
Okay, how about you, Jesse?
Well, UCLA is a passion for me. That was a dream that I had. I grew up in West LA, so I knew where it was, and I always wanted to go there. And when I was on campus for the 6 years I was there, I never left campus. I always worked there in the summer with partnership program, bringing young students from high schools and junior high schools to come and get them to think about coming to UCLA. So that was always me. The best part of it, I think, is the friendships that you build, the networks that you make, and you're going to one of the best schools, it's like the #1 public school in the country, so it's just orgulloso, to be a Bruin.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, for me, it was the traditions. I grew up going to Poly to basketball games with my dad. I remember seeing the band and knowing like when I was 8 years old that I wanted to be down in that student section one day. So yeah, for me, it's the traditions. That was something I took full advantage of. I danced in spring sing with my sorority, rang the Liberty Bell, did like all of those great sports and sort of like LA-based traditions. And I think there's just like something to be said about those. It's, not all colleges are like that. And it just speaks a lot about UCLA's great history and standing in the LA community.
I know that UCLA also has a lot of really great extracurricular activities. And I'm just wondering, as a student or even as a professional, have you been involved in clubs, and how has that, or organizations, and how has that really impacted your personal as well as professional development? Jesse, you want to go first?
Well, I was a past president of the 1984 Anderson School MBA program, our class, and that was an incredible experience because we had an opportunity to reach out to the 300 plus MBAs colleagues of mine that we haven't seen in each other, and what it is the presidency is for 5 years, and in the 5th year is when you have your 5-year reunion. So that's what the goal that you are, so you're trying to cultivate the friendships and everything. And this was our 35th when when I was there, and the great thing about it was when all the Latinos that I knew, we had 2 tables that came that never have participated before, and they came because they were my friends, so that was just a very incredible, emotional opportunity for me.
Thank you. How about you, Liz?
So I was not really involved in clubs on campus. I worked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then went to school all day Tuesday and Thursday. But I did get involved after with UCLA Latino Alumni, made some amazing friends, and got some great advice from folks who were older than me at the time. And after, as an alumni, I was on the, they used to call it the GRAC, which was like the government affairs, like advocacy. And then I think they named it something else. And so now it's harder. I worked for an elected, and so it was harder to get involved. But those were sort of the things that I got involved so I can meet fellow Bruins and sort of advocate for UCLA.
How about you, Laura?
Yeah, so I think that I was in a lot of extracurriculars. The one that stood out the most to me was called orientation staff. So it was the new student advisors who would pick your classes throughout the summer, or the like cult way of saying it was O-staff. So that was a really great community. We got to take over the dorms for the summer, got a stipend, which at the time being 21, like getting a stipend to live and work out of the dorms was like absolutely my dream job. So that was super fun. Got to take, pick all the kids' classes, go take them on tours, goof around and do like a SNL version with UCLA themed stuff, like a little mini play for them, for all the new students at the freshman and transfer level. So even climbed the Royce Towers, which I know there's some people who work here don't tell. But yeah, a lot of great memories, and I still keep in touch with a lot of the O-staffers. So a lot of them ended up working in recruiting or higher ed or very people-facing jobs, and so we kind of mentor each other, so to say, and keep in touch about what we're up to post-grad.
Okay, I know that a lot of careers may not be, straight and direct, and I'm just curious to know if you can share one of your challenges, maybe a barrier that you encountered, and how did you navigate that?
I can go. I think out of the three, I probably have one that doesn't have sort of a basic entry. I wanted to work for an elected official straight out of college. And so you can apply, but as some of you know, it really requires you to volunteer for a campaign, volunteer, intern, to get your foot in the door. And so I just really stuck to it until I was able to sort of get an opportunity to interview. And then once I was there, it was easier to sort of move in different capacities. But I really think it's once you figure out what you want to do, really stick to it, find people who are going to guide you, give you advice, provide you opportunities to volunteer, meet new people, meet people who are already in the profession. And so you just really have to sort of stick to it. Sometimes it's going to require a little hard work, but it's really just sort of knowing what your passion is and sticking to it.
Okay, thanks, Liz. How about you, Jesse?
That's the one there it goes. When I graduated from the MBA program, I went to Citibank in New York, and so I get there and they said, okay, this is your office. Nobody told me anything. There was a lot of meetings and everything. There was a lot of reports that were generated, but nobody told me what to do. Nobody told me what my job was. All I knew, I was in risk management for the national Citibank portfolio. We developed credit products for all of the U.S. market, but nobody told me anything. So I would go to all the meetings, take good notes, and then I would read all the reports that were being generated, right? And one day the director says, Jesse, he goes, I want you to do the forecast for our credit card portfolio. Citibank by far is the biggest credit card issuer in the U.S. So I had to, so that was my job, to give the forecast, right? So I got together with a lady who was doing the forecast, and she was doing it manual, and she had a little system of doing it, which worked for her. It was fine, but it wasn't very sophisticated. And then she goes, oh yeah, you're going to take my idea, you're going to make it better, and you're going to get all the credit, and I'm still going to stay in my job and not get anything. I said, no, I'm not like that. I said, if it goes well, I'm going to make sure that you get credit. So I made the presentation, and I didn't know that there was another guy who was doing the same thing, and he was a guy who had a doctorate in econometrics, you know, from Egypt. So I gave my presentation, and it was different than the other guy's presentation. And so the director asked me, he goes, Jesse, how come yours is so different? I go, because you have seasonality, you know, during certain parts of the year, people either pay or go more delinquent. And I explained that whole thing. And so then that was a big challenge, because then the guy was really upset. He goes, oh, you threw me under the bus and stuff. And I go, I didn't even know you were working on this thing, you know, but that was one of the big challenges. And after that, I fit right in, you know, and then and it was easier to, you know, to do my job, you know, because you kind of grow from there, like in Liz's example.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, so I think a challenge that you know, a lot of like early career people can probably relate to is not being siloed. Something that I'm dealing with is trying to not be siloed and only doing one type of thing for my entire career. So I've been recruiting for 7 years, and then, you know, through my master's program, which is more like holistic of all of different facets of HR, have definitely done a lot of soul searching and realized, you know, maybe I don't want to do recruiting forever. There's other things. There's like the HR business partner track. There's project management. And so that's something I'm currently experiencing, that I'm very grateful to have classes that sort of help round out that overall career knowledge. I think that's going to be extremely helpful for once I am ready to maybe try out a slightly different job than what I have been doing. So that would be my advice, is always be a lifelong learner and figure out, like, if there are classes or certifications or things like that that you can take to round out your knowledge and set you up for success in maybe future positions that you're interested in. Take advantage of those, especially if your company offers something like tuition reimbursement, which I'm very fortunate that my company, Warner, does. So.
Thank you. Listen, a lot of you, all of you on the panel have been very successful. And I'm just wondering if there's a specific strategy that's really helped you in terms of your overall career success. Anybody like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
I think from my perspective, what I think has helped me is because I'm not a complainer. If you know, my boss used to come at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and say, Jesse, I got this report that I want it done and I want it on my desk 8 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I would stay up to 1 or 2 in the afternoon. I mean, 1 or 2 in the morning. And then he would say, you must hate my guts. And I go, no, you. I said, you're doing your job. Your director asked you to do this, and then you task me to do it. So why should I get mad? I don't have time to get mad. I got a big challenge ahead of me. So I think that helps a lot. The other thing is don't expect rewards, and recognition. You do a good job to the best of your abilities, and but don't steal people's ideas. Just be a good team player. Give each other credit, and I think when you do that, senior management as well as the people below you will respect that you are, that you're ethical and that you're a team player, and that's really important.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. How about you, Liz?
I think that, just as immigrants and, our parents taught us to work hard, don't miss. I remember my parents would never let me miss school. I had to be really sick for me to stay home. And so I think we are taught this work ethic. I've worked in organizations where, I may be one of a handful of people of color. And so I might have to work a little harder. I may not have, the same resources or had the same skill sets at that time, but it's really sort of like Laura said, is being a life learner, working hard and figuring out ways to adapt and to figure out how you learn something new if you're missing a skill set. But it's really sort of be cognizant, work hard, show your worth, and continue to sort of build on your skill sets.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, so I think something that has contributed to being successful for me has, and I think this is important, especially for women to keep in mind as they're navigating their next steps in their career, is apply for jobs that are like slightly out of your comfort zone. I feel that every job that I've had, to an extent, it was really scary going into, because I felt like I only know about maybe 75% of how to do this job. And I think it's actually been proven, like, female applicants tend not to apply for higher level jobs unless they feel like they meet like 90 to 95% of the qualifications. So that would be my advice. And I think that that's, I mean, I have to practice what I preach myself. But I think that that's so important, is go for those stretch opportunities. And, you know, the ideal job is really should have room to grow into, I think.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to mentoring. I know that that's something that's an important aspect of today's conversation. And I'm just wondering, can you kind of explain to the audience why you think mentoring is important?
I can go first.
Okay.
I think that for me, I've never had a mentor in the traditional sense of what everyone thinks, where there is one dedicated person that sort of walks you through every step or is there to provide guidance. I think I've, picked up different people along the way. I've listened, I've paid attention to advice that, people have given me, or sort of life lessons. But I think it's always important to find someone who shares similar beliefs, similar backgrounds, who can help guide and provide strategic guidance and answer any questions that you may be afraid to ask. There might be something you don't know, or know someone. It's always important to sort of find, a group of people who can then sort of connect you to other people and sort of listen and always, ask advice and continue to learn.
And is that group of people, do you usually work on that at the same time, at different times, or do you have like a specific group that you work with all the time?
No, I think I've picked up, some of my old bosses. I've met some amazing friends through UCLA alumni who, I was, young, and they used to invite me to dinner so that I could get to meet other people. They would invite me to events that, other people may not have access to, just so that I could expand my, professional contacts. And so I think it's really unique to you. You get to sort of set the parameters. If you want a whole village around you, you want one person, but it's always good to have someone to sort of have as, someone who's going to give you advice.
How about you, Laura?
Yeah, so mentors have definitely played a big role in sort of my early career path. I would say any of the anytime I'm applying to a job, I always try to find like who at UCLA works there already that I can reach out to for kind of like the scoop on the company, do an informational interview. So I bring that up to sort of demonstrate the importance of like just-in-time mentoring is also, I think, important. It's not necessarily always like you have, a clear-cut mentor at every single stage of your life. A lot of times, you might lose touch and then go back and update them on how you're doing. But yeah, I think that that's super important, is sort of like that aspect of just-in-time mentoring, as well as from your own peers. A lot of the people you went to school with at UCLA are all really successful and doing really cool things. And so those are really, great people to keep in touch with as well. But yes, definitely, especially as a female woman, as I'm seeing in the chat, definitely important to seek mentorship for every step of the way, and definitely helps to have a community like Ucla to tap into.
How about you, Jesse?
I'm going to be brutally honest. I've never had a mentor, and maybe it's because of a different generation. But when I went to Citibank, like I said before, I was on my own. And when I went to the State Department, I was on my own. Nobody groomed me to be, for my next career step, or said, do this and do that and do that, and it'll be better for your career. In spite of that, I was very successful. I'm very, a lot of the ambassador friends of mine who were with me were shocked that I was never an ambassador, you know. I mean, I came close, but I never made it. And that's because I didn't have the old boy network pushing me, you know, because in order to be an ambassador, you got to get pushed at a very senior level, you know, to the Secretary of State, you know, and they know who you are because, you know, if I can go to Haiti and I can see all the properties I bought for Haiti, all the buildings that we constructed for housing after the earthquake. I can go to Tijuana and see the consulate general there in Tijuana that I bought, and I can go to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I can see the one that the consulate general I bought there. And so I know that I did a good job because, you know, I got a lot of awards, you know, superior honor awards, meritorious honor awards, and meritorious step increases, but nobody mentored me, you know. However, I've been a mentor all my life. I think it started, you know, early on, you know. I was a mentor when I was in the military to other young soldiers, and then I was a mentor and at UCLA to all my fellow Bruins who came to me and asked me for advice, you know, and that's why I got all these wonderful friends of mine that we've been friends for 40 years.
Well, I think a lot of you have really pointed out some of the findings I had in my dissertation. I know that a lot of, especially because I was looking at Mexican Americans and Mexican American undergraduates, and a lot of them did not have the formal or typical traditional type of mentor like all of you have really discussed. I think that there's different types of mentors that you've all kind of tapped upon, and it's kind of a group and a community. And I think it's also really important to consider, like Liz had mentioned, as well as Laura, to consider peers, because peers can also be mentors. So I really, really liked how a lot of you discussed that. I know that some of us are probably contemplating and thinking we want to go and find a mentor. I know that maybe you didn't have the traditional mentor, but I'm just wondering what you would recommend, given your experience now, what particular traits that you might suggest that they might look for in a mentor? Laura?
I can start. I think it's always great to seek a mentor who is currently working in the field or has, you know, some sort of knowledge of areas that you're interested in pursuing for your career. They can provide you know, really valuable guidance. I was a Orgullosos mentor, and my student, as an example, was pre-law, and I at Warner recruit for legal and business affairs, like administrative positions and internships and stuff like that. And so I think that was a really good match. Kudos to Ucla for making that match. But yeah, so to provide that as an example, I think it can be super helpful to look for those qualities in terms of your professional interests, but also like who kind of balances you out. You know, if you're someone who's a little bit more introverted, you might benefit from someone who's more extroverted, or vice versa. So you know, thinking personal qualities and also professional qualities.
Good points. How about you, Jesse?
I think it's also important to have shared experiences, life experiences. You know, maybe you coming from the same background, speaking, you know, different languages, and those kinds of things, I think are really helpful. And also, I think the approachability of a mentor, you know, because sometimes, you know, you can go to an event and network, and the people are looking for a specific type of person to mentor, you know, and they don't make you feel welcome when you come into their circle. So you come in and it's almost awkward because they don't focus on you very much, you know, and you try to introduce yourself, and then they kind of, you know, don't spend a lot of time with you. I think it's important to get a mentor that's going to care for you, that's going to help you, just guide you, because the decisions are ultimately made by you. All the mentor can do is say, you know, this might be a good way to do things, or this next step might be a good one for you. I always tell the students and even professionals that I mentor that they should have a 5-year plan and update it yearly. I said, but don't have the plan be controlling you. You should also take risks and be flexible. I said, sometimes the door of opportunity knocks only once, and if you don't get on board, you lose it. And I got a lot of friends who have lost that door of opportunity.
Thank you. How about you, Liz?
I think Laura and Jesse said a lot of things that I would have said. I think that not only backgrounds, but shared beliefs, and finding folks that are going to be honest and genuine with you, who are going to really sort of tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. Because there are times where you're going to need someone to sort of pick you up and tell you things you may not want to hear. And so it's really sort of knowing what you need in that moment and finding the right people who are going to sort of, again, be honest and genuine and be able to provide guidance that is really the best for you. And I think you also have to know yourself to know when something is good and what you should follow, right? Versus people are going to give you lots of advice. And so you have to sort of pick and choose and figure out what's best for you.
I think all of you really did a great, had a really great conversations and great points about the importance of similarities. I know that I coordinated a national mentoring program for young people. And one thing that really made an effort was to make sure that they were the same gender as well as the same ethnicity. And that was something that was very helpful. If not, like Laura had mentioned, and I think also all of you had mentioned, some of the similarities and beliefs that you possess. And that's something that's, something you might want to consider as well. So I think we're going to go ahead and begin to wrap up. And I just wanted you to take the time to identify for us a particular strategy or a tip that you may think that might be helpful to people besides mentoring, that can help people be successful with their career.
I can jump in. I would say definitely social networking these days, especially in this COVID age we're in. Obviously, we're challenged with not being able to attend the great, in-person events that we all miss. But there's still some things that you can definitely do behind the scenes. I think Caesar typed in UCLA 1 into the chat. Definitely encourage you all to subscribe to that if you haven't. It's basically a LinkedIn for Bruins, where alumni post job opportunities. You can actually request that somebody be your mentor through UCLA 1. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Another strategy I used a lot when I was trying to break into human resources was the power of like the LinkedIn search and in-mail. So I would basically look up all Bruins working in HR, working in LA, and sometimes it was kind of a numbers game. I would message a lot of them, didn't always get a response, which, obviously don't take personally. A lot of people don't check LinkedIn sometimes. But for the ones that did, I was able to have really meaningful conversations about the work that they were doing in HR. And as a 22, 23-year-old, that helped me immensely to know that this is what I wanted to do with my career.
Well, I think also it's important to belong to professional organizations, and not necessarily just Latino, but just in general. Latino's good, but you got to expand yourself. Don't limit yourself. When I was in the State Department, I purposely didn't want to serve in Latin America for my first tour, and either for my second tour. So my first tour was in Bangladesh. How far can you? I couldn't go any further. I told my dad, if you dig a hole, you come out in Jalisco, or my hometown. He was just laughing about that. But basically, you have to. I lost my train of thought, you guys. But what you have to do basically is position yourself. And can somebody remind me what I was talking about? Because I had like 3 or 4 thoughts in my mind at the same time. About the mentoring, excuse me. So you belong to professional organizations, and there you can meet people. And then you also belong to social groups. For example, Habitat for Humanity, which I am involved with. I'm a permanent volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. You meet a lot of incredible people. We do Hollywood Build. You meet producers, writers, all these kinds of people. We do Power Women, Power Tools. Where you meet all these incredible women that are very that are professional, very they're super achievers, you know. So there's a lot of different opportunities to, you know, once you expand yourself and go out and become a member of all these groups.
Thank you. And then I think, was it Liz that we need to hear from also?
Yes, but I think that Laura gave a very good sort of overview of the new sort of social, and Jesse sort of gave the great overview of what is current. But I think, you know, even for me, right, I worked for someone for 11 years and, you know, I never had to, you know, sort of update my resume. And so afterwards I was like, oh my God, I haven't touched this resume in so long. But it's just, you know, even if you're not looking for a job, it's great to, like, you know, continue to work on your resume, your bio, you know, ask peers or mentors to look at your, you know, documents so that it is current and, you know, you do continue to grow. And sometimes when we write things, we think they sound some, you know, a particular way, but someone might have a better sort of perspective of how you should describe your skill sets. And so I think it's a little of everything, sort of stay current. You know, as I used to tell my staff, you know, when you go to an event, you need to come back with 5 business cards. These are not people you know, these are new people. So challenge yourself to meet new people, get engaged in new activities so that you can expand your circles and, you know, your ideas of what your next career could look like.
I think all of you really touched upon something that's really to challenge yourself, also to continue this lifelong learning process. And I think that's something that's key, but also to keep up and stay current as well. I mean, social media, maybe LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is still, you know, a tool, so a type of social media. So that's something you might want to consider as well. So let's go ahead, and I appreciate all the answers and all the conversations that we had thus far. I know that we've received a couple of questions, and the first question comes from Cheryl Quintana. And she says, did anyone ever deal with what is being shared today by Latina and Latino students as the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I had a Mexican American ambassador, U.S. ambassador, and she wrote this incredible. She was the speechwriter for Hillary Clinton, and she wrote this incredible essay, basically saying that even where she was, you know, I mean, with the first lady, you know, writing for her, she still felt that she didn't belong, right? And that's the thing that we have to get over. That, you know, that's the hurdle that we have to believe in ourselves. You know, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you can compete with anybody, right? And how do you do that? You make sure that you over prepare yourself. Make sure that you're always willing to go that extra mile to get to the next stage, and that's really helpful. But I remember the ambassador felt like, she felt like, whatever, when she became an ambassador, he goes, oh my God, I'm going to be a U.S. ambassador. Are they going to believe me? Are they going to ask for, where's the real ambassador? Because what happens, to be frank, in the State Department, when the ambassador is Latino, like when John Gavin, went, and he's Mexican American, when he went to Mexico's ambassador, the Mexican said, why don't you send us a real ambassador, a white one, And that happens to us. The same thing with African Americans go to Africa, and they get the same thing, so it's, we belong, we absolutely belong, and we have to be strong. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Anybody else want to take that question?
Sure. I think I definitely dealt with this a little bit when I started at Warner Brothers. I was only about 26. And so, feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm at this big media and entertainment studio with, just to be frank, a lot of older white men. And I'm supposed to hire for them. I'm supposed to partner directly with senior vice presidents, and even more recently, discuss the importance of diversity in hiring. And so that's not always easy, that's for sure. I think You know, I still struggle with it. Some conversations are a lot easier than others, depending on who I'm working with or talking to. And yeah, I think a way that I try to combat it is just having the space to talk about it with coworkers who understand, you know, ongoing training that the company provides of how to have more challenging conversations. And like Jesse said, yes, I think it's definitely just a little bit of finding that confidence within yourself of knowing like we can take up space in places that maybe, you know, were a little bit underrepresented.
Okay. Liz, any thoughts?
I think, you know, both, again, right, everyone's touched on a little bit. I think I've worked in, you know, big PR firms where, again, you know, I was one of 5. And yes, you do feel like you have to work a lot harder. But I think in those opportunities, I think that sometimes if you sort of dig and you have these conversations and you highlight some of the things that you believe are your crutches, they might actually turn out to be great opportunities. For me, the fact that, you know, I was bilingual, that I could speak and write in Spanish allowed me to work on different accounts across the board, big and small, you know, Honda, different, just things that I wouldn't get to have worked on. But because I was able to sort of talk about things that were unique, it actually opened doors for me. So I think it's sometimes we sort of put those barriers ourselves, but I think if you sort of plow through and talk about them, sometimes those are the things that can actually make you stand out.
I think all of you really touched upon something that's key and really important. I think for myself, even, I know that I'm hearing from several of you, that we've all had to work and go that extra step. Whether it's that extra step as a Latina, a Latino, a woman, I think we've all had to go in and check those additional boxes, make sure that we were diligent, hardworking, practice the work ethic that we were all taught, to go that extra step. And I know when Jesse was talking about, you know, his boss coming in at 5 o'clock, but he needed to, you know, stay up and make sure that that report was due, you know, the next day, and gave that to them. I remember finding myself in those situations also. And I know that I think it's just really important to believe in ourselves and the people that we are. And even though we may not have the mentors or the role models that may have come before us in some of the roles that we may be aspiring to, that we can still go ahead and do and pursue the goals and the dreams that we're really, really interested in. Looking to see if there's any other questions that are coming through. Oh, here it is. Second question to Laura B. Laura, what are some skills you would recommend as a corporate recruiter for someone who works in the talent acquisition and HR that would help them succeed at their job? Would you say having a combination of technical skills in Excel, Word, and other Microsoft applications and conversational skills is a great start?
Yeah, I can definitely address that. So it can be pretty tough to break in straight out as a recruiter. I would recommend maybe starting out as a talent acquisition assistant or coordinator. So you really kind of learn the ropes of full cycle recruiting that way. Some other things that I would say, like, my team looks for when recruiting recruiters, it's a mix. You have to be part analytical and part relationship driven. You have to be able to lead, you know, calls with all sorts of people, keep hiring progress on track. You have to be extremely organized. You're dealing with tons and tons of candidates, resumes, systems, day in, day out. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Having a strong foundation in the Microsoft applications is definitely great, as well as any like proprietary systems that store company data of some sort, something like an HR system, SAP, Oracle, things like that. So yeah, that's what I would say. strong communication, strong relationship building, and super, super organized, I would say are the keys to success in recruiting.
Okay. Another question that's popping up is, it says, we're speaking of having mentors from areas similar to our own. But what about those of us who have more than one area of interest? Any recommendations?
Yeah, you know, there's certain things that are common no matter what your area is, certain strategies that you have. First of all, you have to be cognizant of all your responsibilities. You got to be able to define what your goals are in the organization, and what your role is within the organization. So there's a lot of things that regardless of what area you're looking at, you can use similar strategies. I think the main thing is to be well versed in what your responsibilities are and how you fit into the organization and what they expect of you. See, because if you don't understand the expectations of you, you can be working hard but not smart. So you gotta really be on top of that, and because I mean, myself, I'm a management officer for the State Department, but I'm also a human resources officer, and I'm also a finance officer, and I'm also a security officer, and I'm also a information management officer, and I'm also a logistics officer, because I took all of the sub jobs that report to me, and I took all of the training for them, so that when somebody wanted to go vacation for a month, I could say, go, I'll take care of it for you, right? So that's really important for you to be well versed in everything that's in your job, and also to know what your colleagues do in case you ever have to fill in for them.
Good points. How about you, Liz?
I think we touched on this a little bit. I mean, I've had men who are mentors, women who are mentors. I think it's, they don't have to work in the same field. It's just, you can find things that you sort of like about that person, right? You can meet them at events, you can meet them through organizations. I think it's finding your interest or what you're looking for, and then sort of identifying places where you may identify someone that, has those skill sets or works in a particular area that you want to work in. But it's really sort of, you'll know, right? You'll know if you have a connection with this person. But I think they don't have to be in the same sort of workspace field. It's just who you have a connection with, who's going to give you the right advice, and who's going to sort of help you open new doors.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, if you are finding a mentor, say through Ucla or the UCLA networks, anybody involved in those groups is probably already pretty well networked by the very fact that they're doing stuff in those groups. So I would say, even if that direct person is not in your career path you've chosen, they might know somebody. They might have a really good friend they went to college with, or a coworker that they could introduce you for sort of like follow-up conversations or coffee or whatnot. So I would say, yeah, don't discount a mentor just because they're not in your given field, because they very well might know someone who could also provide you with some insight.
And I think all of you really touched upon something that was really key and really important. I know that even individuals that I've worked with in the past, or studying, they may not have had direct or similar backgrounds with respect to career aspirations or what have you. But it allows you to really develop and explore some other different areas. I think Laura had kind of touched upon this before. That way you can go ahead and explore and try something different and learn something different. So that's something that, just something that's important to keep in mind, to go ahead and continue looking for different options. I know that another question that comes through is, can all of you elaborate more on what it means to graduate from UCLA and how having a UCLA degree is the best thing ever?
I can go first. I think as the oldest and the first to go to college, having a degree from UCLA is amazing. I think that having gone there has opened so many doors. I think it has allowed me to apply for jobs and continue to grow and be in places that I never imagined I would get to be in. And I think it's amazing, right? My parents have sixth grade education. And so for me to be able to sort of do things right, I've been in rooms with, President Obama, President Clinton, all these big figureheads that I would never think I would be in the same room with, but it's really allowed me so many opportunities that I never imagined I would get to do.
Jesse or Laura?
Yes. Well, all I know is that my job after I graduated from UCLA was go back to the East Coast and sell. See, UCLA, the business school, has progressively gotten better and better. And the university has gotten better and better over the years. So when I first went to the East Coast, there were 29 MBAs and there was two of us. Actually there was one for Stanford and myself from UCLA. We were the only West Coast guys. Everybody else was from the Ivy League schools. So that was my competition, and Harvard and MIT and all the different schools, and so it was a tough challenge, but I thought that UCLA prepared me very well to meet that challenge, because the field study that we do at UCLA, which is a comprehensive review of a corporation, we did my field study was with IBM, so we learned a lot about how the IBM worked. And we were able to identify some of the logistical problems that they were having and to resolve it and make a recommendation. And so I wasn't intimidated by being at Citibank. So I think what I felt really proud about is everybody knows I'm a Bruin, right? So that's from day one. And the second is I always like to carry it with pride, and I feel it's my responsibility to make sure that the image of UCLA is not, spoiled in any way by my performance.
Laura, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you all shared. I actually got my current job at Warner. Well, this definitely helped, but speaking of those informational interviews, I reached out to someone who was a recruiter at Warner Brothers, who was also a Bruin, just like 1 year below me. And so that I think definitely helped, especially in these larger industries that LA is known for, such as the, public sector, government, entertainment. There's a pretty robust network of Bruins all working in the field. So I think that I agree with what Liz said. I don't think I would have worked at some of these large companies that I have without having UCLA on my resume. And yeah, I can confirm as a recruiter, although of course I'm not supposed to have that bias when I review resumes, but I can confirm it definitely stands out for hiring managers and people looking to fill their next job if someone went to a large school like UCLA.
Another question that's coming up here is for you, Laura. It says, I was also wondering which degree you think provides more skills that will set someone up for a successful career in HR and talent acquisition, an MBA or a master's degree focused in HR?
That's a great question. I personally just being someone who's going through the master's right now, I'm a high proponent of a more specialized master's versus MBA if HR is really what you want to do. I would say if you're a little bit unsure, maybe if you're interested in HR, but maybe also operations or marketing or business operations or whatnot, then maybe the MBA is the way to go because you can continue exploring those areas. But if you know for sure you want to do HR, I think either a master's or a specialized certificate is the way to go. And actually UCLA Extension has a really good certificate program for HR if you're interested in researching that one as well.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question. Anybody want to put something in the chat box? Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to the panelists here today. I think they've done a really excellent job of really putting together some overall key pointers for career success, and really being able to be open, be focusing on lifelong learning, and also the importance of mentors. I know that even though a lot of us, including myself, did not have a formal mentor, I think that we've all showed and demonstrated today that we've been able to be successful. I think with no doubt, though, I'm reading based on my literature review and a lot of my readings I'm mentoring, it seems to, mentoring seems to help facilitate success a lot easier for people who do have mentors. And I think that there's different ways that you can go about getting mentors, and there's formal programs that you can go ahead and apply for. Check out the different websites with your alumni associations. Also, there's different programs or some informal ways that you can also become involved. And one of the informal ways that I really encourage all of you, including myself, I've done, is to informally pursue an individual as your mentor. And in doing so, I know for myself, there was an individual who I ended up going in and talking to just before I was pursuing and going to graduate school. And I know that I ended up calling him and talking to him, for example, about getting pointers about going on to graduate school, because I was concerned about being all but dissertation. And all but dissertation is a person that doesn't finish their PhD. And I was very concerned. I didn't want to be one of those Latinas without the PhD. And I remember talking to him and calling him up and having a conversation with him. And I ended up connecting with him. He ended up following up with me. I called him. We ended up meeting actually on campus in the dorms. And we ended up planning my entire graduate degree, my curriculum, my classes, what to take, which professors to take as well. And he and I continued working together. He told me to go ahead and call him, after the quarter. And that went on for the 2 years that I was working on my coursework. But eventually over time, he became my formal mentor. I mean, because that was something that we ended up working on. And it was something that I was excited about because he had the degree that I wanted, as well as the job that I was really interested in doing. So I really encourage all of you to take the initiative and go after what you want. Go after that particular mentor. Do the research of an individual that you may be impressed with. Do the research that you think might be valuable to you, and look into pursuing and approaching that individual. And like Laura had mentioned, you can go ahead and contact people through LinkedIn. Do the research, find out people who have the common backgrounds with you, because going in and pursuing various individuals who can eventually become your mentor is something that's key and something that's very important. I think it's really important to continue investing in yourselves. I think a lot of us have invested in ourselves in terms of the education that we received here at UCLA, or that we are receiving here at UCLA. It's the best investment that you can make in yourself. And I think, me personally, when I finished my PhD, and at times, you're wondering, can I really do this? And I remind myself, I did it. And I did it at UCLA, like all of you here today. And I really encourage you to go ahead and continue to pursue your dreams and your goals, and to continue to be successful. To continue to be successful, but also to please remember to encourage other individuals and to be mentors to other individuals as well. So with that, I know that I'm just really excited to have been here with all of you here today. I really thank Laura, as well as Liz and Jesse, for joining and being excellent panelists here today as well. I also wanted to thank Caesar, as well as Colleen O'Brien, for really putting together this overall panel, as well as the overall questions for today. Because without them, we wouldn't have a panel. And I know that without the panelists, we wouldn't be here tonight as well. So I just really want to say that I wish all of you continued success. I think we've all done amazing things. And I think that all of us are amazing Bruins. So with that, I just want to go ahead and close tonight by saying, go Bruins, and have a really great evening. Thanks for joining us here tonight.